Hello, YouTube. It's 12:12 in the morning. It's Wednesday night, but still technically it's still Wednesday night, but it's technically early Thursday morning. Um, when I got home from all of my adventures, I feel like I'm on Thursday morning. Just to clarify, I often joke that I'm on rock and roll time. So yeah, the day starts after I go to sleep and wake up, and usually I'm going to sleep sometime around sunup and waking up sometime in the excuse me, sometime in the early afternoon. However, um, last night was a an all-night karaoke and lasagna adventure that included very little. I won't say no sleeping, but not a whole lot of sleeping, and not a lot of good sleeping. Uh, but hey, it included a lot of good lasagna, so that was needed. Anyway, pretty. I was fairly tired while running errands yesterday. Basically during the day and afternoon on Wednesday. As a result of that, the woman I stayed the night with, she kind of woke me up at about 11 and was kind of like, hey, you should probably go now because I'm getting ready to go to sleep. And I guess her concern was just that she didn't want me waking up while she was all knocked out and leaving her door unlocked or whatever, which I guess is all right. It makes sense. I don't live there, so whatever. It worked out pretty good. I rolled out of there 11 a.m. ish, and for once, and actually the first time since I've been without my car, I was able to get to Bullock's in time for breakfast. And I love starting my day with breakfast at Bullock's, and Raina was behind the bar, which was sweet. It's always nice to see her. And yeah, that didn't. Breakfast was good, and I kind of leisurely took my time eating it and watching some really dumb game shows on the TV. Actually, the TV of me next to this older guy that I see there sometimes when I come in the morning. He's an entertaining guy. I would imagine he's maybe in his late 70s, more likely in his 80s, and it's funny. Like sometimes he'll say things that just sound really racist, and I don't think the guy is so much. I think it's just his head's from kind of a different place, different time. Like that thing he said to me that had me just rolling was that. So we're watching this trivia show. Actually, when we got there, we were watching CNN, and they were showing coverage of these protests at Netflix over the Dave Chappelle special, and that's hysterical to me. And I'm not going to try to get on a tangent of that. Or at least I'm going to make a conscious effort to not get on a tangent of that. I might talk about that later, though, because wow, it's just 3 shades of stupid. All of that is. Anyway, so later. And we were talking about that again. And actually, that's kind of what got him and I talking, as I had commented that I'd never seen anything like people get so bent out of shape about the musings of a comedian. That back in the day, and just to kind of put something in perspective, old enough that he would identify with. I said back in the day, George Carlin said some pretty controversial and offensive stuff, and you either laughed at it and you loved it, or you just ignored the guy. I mean, if his HBO special was on and you didn't find that to be to your taste, you'd change the channel. What do you do? You didn't, and granted back then, prior to that, I mean, off color comedy was done was either at a private show, you didn't go, or like a live show, or you didn't, or you bought it on records, and you didn't buy those kind of comedy records if you weren't into that kind of comedy. You certainly didn't. I certainly don't know of anybody working at the venues where the live shows were at, or working at the record label, or maybe the company that was pressing the records, that felt they were offended by George Carlin's jokes, suddenly having to have a big public issue and go on strike about it. And I think so much of that just comes from the internet, and particularly social media, giving everybody a voice. And I mean, there's good things about that. There's not so good things about that. I mean, hey, here I am running my mouth, all the freaking time on YouTube. Not like a lot of people listen to it, but hey, I'm, putting my 2 cents out there. And I think it's a good thing. But again, if you don't like what I have to say, you're welcome to just click stop and go to another YouTube video, and I could give a shit less. But yeah, so all these protests, and I couldn't believe all the coverage of it, and fortunately the volume was down, and I can only imagine, how the spin doctors at CNN were twisting it. And I love the fact that Chappelle obviously gives zero shits about it, and as much as Netflix likes to come off as woke and politically correct, the bottom line is that they're a corporation, and their biggest concern is where the money is. And anybody with a brain knows that the money is coming from Chappelle and people that want to watch Dave Chappelle way more than whatever the stupid show is that this tranny is staff writer for, or any other content that's niche marketed to transvestites. So, but I'm sorry, the transgendered. I guess you're not supposed to say trannies anymore. Which reminds me, somebody asked me if my Saturn was with the motor blown on my Saturn, why I wasn't driving my Benz, and I'm not driving my Benz because the tranny's gone out. So just thought I'd share that bit of happenstance. This is the area that I've talked about before, where I don't like the way the Greenbelt bike route ends in the old crosscut canals. You see it kind of curves off to the right and heads that way. It does connect in McDowell, but not to any point on McDowell that's useful for anybody. Most people that are going down this bike route are needing to go right where I am. And there'd probably be a more worn out path where I'm walking if it wasn't for the fact that the Parks Department waters the shit out of this. And then sometimes people won't pass through this way just because it's all wet. So I really wish the city of Phoenix would make a pathway connecting where I just walked to that sidewalk, which, as you saw, started right where I started walking on it. It's a sidewalk to nowhere. So many sidewalks and bike lanes and bike routes just lead to nowhere, and that's the dysfunctionality of it. Oh, I said I wasn't going to talk about the Chappelle thing, and I totally did. I never got to the game show thing we were talking about. Check this shit out. I'm seeing this like everywhere I go. My buddy in oh my God, I think the aliens are trying to send me a message in Morse code. Oh, but I can't read it, and I forgot my pen. Shit the bed again. My buddy is supposed to be trying to rebuild those electric scooters that I brought out to Orange County. Back when I was a juicer, I used to encounter lights like that all the time. I put on my Snapchat if it seemed a little more interesting or not. Wow, it's popping at the break room. So I'm gonna head there, see what's up. It's bored. The got a feeling I might be too white for the current crowd there, which makes me sad because that's used to be my crowd. Anyway, he was saying the reason those lights flash like that is with most lighting switching to LED lighting. Those who know a minor amount about electricity, pretty much all mains current in the United States is AC, which is alternating current at 60 hertz. All LED lighting is DC. In fact, a diode, before there was such thing as a light emitting diode, which is what LED stands for, there were just diodes which were used in a circuit to make sure that power was only flowing in one direction. That's generally what a diode does. And wow, there are a lot of people at the break room. I'm a little taken back by this. Yeah, I'm gonna finish filming before I get over there. Anyway, so in other words, and also they run at a voltage that is not 110 volts, which is the mains power in the United States. So there has to be some kind of circuitry with all, whereas an incandescent light bulb or even a fluorescent light bulb actually ran on 110 volts AC. I mean, light bulb's pretty simple. You got two contacts, screw it into the hole, and electricity powers through it, and it gets hot and lights up. pretty simple. And of course, those you're hard pressed to buy an incandescent light bulb these days. Fluorescent light bulbs a little bit more complicated, and I'm not really qualified to explain how they work. I have kind of a cursory knowledge of it, but I'm not going to try and explain that and just show how cursory and incomplete my knowledge is. LED lighting, obviously the voltage varies depending on the diode, but it has to be DC. So along with every kind of LED lighting, there's going to be a circuit which look good on that flashing LED light behind the 7-Eleven again. So there needs to be a circuit that changes the AC, alternating current, to DC, which is direct current, everything flowing in one direction, and then also that reduces that 110 volts down to a lower voltage, whatever suitable for the size and quantity of the LEDs inside the lighting unit. And I don't know exactly the details of what goes in the circuits, to be honest. That's a little bit above me. I'm not in my fourth year of university to become an electrical engineer. But my friend Andrew is, and he's kind of explained how those circuits work, and I've kind of read and watched some YouTube videos about how those circuits work. They're a little over my head, but basically what is causing the flashing, and I'm sure I'm not the only one noticing that there's a lot of flashing lights all over like this in so many public places, is caused by the LEDs still working just fine, but the circuitry that converts the power for them from the 110 volt AC having some element that's just shot in it. And so anyway, that's in case you're ever wondering why so many places you see lights flashing like that. That's why. And of course it a lot of it boils down to whoever's responsible for changing that light. It's not that big of a deal. Case in point, I deliberately have a light like that I use on my front porch. and it's annoying, and honestly I keep it there because I feel it's annoying enough that it makes people that might be wandering around there that have no business loitering there when it's dark to move on.